It's time for Lord Don's Treehouse of Terror. Oh, wait, no, that's The Simpsons. Lord Don's Crypt of... Oh, no, that's someone else. Lord Don's Vault. No. I know. Lord Don's Library of Horror. Brought to you by HalloweenPsychicFair.com. Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from beautiful Florida, and welcome to Lord Don's Library of Horror. And what this is that during the month of October we will be bringing you a different classic horror film every Friday as part of the Halloween Psychic Fair. And you can learn more about the Halloween Psychic Fair at HalloweenPsychicFair.com. There are many other broadcasts in addition to this one. There are classes, and of course there are psychics. So a lot of different things for different interests. But in this case, again, we're bringing you classic horror films in the public domain, which is why we can bring them to you. But each of the different films we're going to be showing is considered a classic in its own right, sometimes in the nature of a cult classic, but still a classic, and each one of them has some degree of metaphysical relevance. And so we'll be sharing the film with you, but also my commentary on the metaphysics of the film and also the history behind the film. And I think you'll find it interesting. Tonight's film is White Zombie from 1933, starring Bela Lugosi and Maj Bellamy. This is the first feature-length film about zombies and introduced the idea of zombies into the horror film world. And it uses the idea of zombies in the earlier sense of a creature out of Haitian folklore, a person raised from the dead to become an undead slave through the magic of a sorcerer or bakor. And this is different, of course, from some later uses of the term in the horror world, where you have zombies that are created by space viruses and all manner of other things. This is the earlier sense of the word, and the film White Zombie does stick to that sense of the word, even though it has some very strange ideas about Haiti and about voodoo, but it does at least stick to the original sense of the word. And this film was made in 1932. It does have some drawbacks to it, and one of those is that it is a bit dated and does have some unfortunate stereotypical presentations that I think one will have to overlook in order to see the good in the film. But because of its age, it is what it is, and we must take it where we find it. If you can overlook those stereotypes, which do show up in a couple of places, I think it's otherwise an enjoyable film. The other drawback to the film is that it does come from the transitional period between silent film and talking film. And although it is a talking film, it does still have a lot of the elements of a silent film, including the fact that the soundtrack is rather sparse. There's a lot of silence in this film, which is typical of films of this era, because they hadn't really used music so much to fill in the background as they later learned to do. There are scenes that do have music filling in the background, but not nearly as much as a modern film will have. And the acting style does owe a bit more to the silent era than to the talking era. And as you may know, during the silent era, acting tended to be a little overstated because there was no sound. In the words of Norma Desmond, they didn't need words, they had faces, and they used them. In later years with the sound era, more intimate styles of acting developed, which were much more understated, but that was well after this. So you also have to take the acting as it is. Some of it is better than others, but it's often been said that this film is full of performances that are in fact rather more zombie-like than they may have been intended to be. But that's part of its charm. One of the things about old horror is that there's usually a campy aspect to it, and that's part of what people enjoy. And if you take the film where you find it, I think you'll find White Zombie quite enjoyable. And so, let us begin our film.
Looks like a burial.
In the soul? Driver, what is it?
It's a funeral, Menzel. They're afraid of the men who steal dead bodies. So they dig the grave in the middle of the road. Where people pass all the time. Well, that's a cheerful introduction to you to our West Indies. You know where is the house of Monsieur Beaumont? Zombies! Hurry! Hurry! Why did you drive like that, you fool? We might have been killed. Worse than that, monsieur. We might have been caught. Caught? By whom? Those men you spoke to? They are not men, monsieur. They are dead bodies. Dead? Yes, monsieur. Zombies. The living dead. Corpses taken from that grave. Or made for work. Sugar mill. Fields at night. Look! Here they come! Excuse me. Have you got a match? Did I frighten you? I'm sorry. I'm ugly enough, I suppose. No, it wasn't you. Something happened back on the road there. We stopped to pick some men. The driver told us they weren't men at all. He said they were crooks. Crooks. Surely you don't believe it, do you? No. I don't know. Haiti is full of nonsense and superstition. They're always mixed up with a lot of mysteries that turn your head, guys. I've been a missionary here for Oh, 30 years. From the time, I don't know what to say. Come, let's go in the house. Oh, yes. Yeah, come with. Is Mr. Beaumont in? You're expecting, Dr. Bruder. Yes, yes, I can send for to marry someone. Maybe. How long is it that you know Mr. Beaumont? For only a few days. Madeline introduced him on the docks in Port-au-Prince. And you?
I met him on the ship coming from New York. He was very kind during the voyage.
Madeline and I planned to be married the moment she arrived, but Mr. Beaumont persuaded us to come here. He promised to take me out of the bank at Port-au-Prince and send me to New York as his agent. Strange. Very strange. I'll tell Mr. Beaumont yes. It's all right, isn't it, Doctor? Oh, I guess so. You see, I've only met Mr. Beaumont once or twice. but he never struck me as a man that would take the trouble to play a fairy dance to get something like you. You live. Oh, let's watch that. I suppose you think I'm a meddling old fool, but I feel a good deal better if you clear out of this place after you're married and have nothing more to do with Mr. Beaumont. The young people have arrived, sir, and Dr. Bruner. They're waiting in the reception hall. Show them to their room and tell them I'm out. No, wait. Perhaps I'd better see them. It might have odd if I didn't. Very odd, sir. Especially as Dr. Bruner is a trifle skeptical as to your motive, sir. Never mind my motive. Has that other person sent word yet? No, sir, not yet. Yes, indeed. Oh, yes, of course. I'm sure you will make a very good agent. But you must be tired after your drive. You'll get some rest. Silver will show you to your room. This way, please. Delighted to see you again, Monsieur Dumont. I'm sorry to keep you waiting, yes? I have been on a journey with men for my milk. Then they work faithfully. They are not worried about long hours. You could make good use of men like mine on your plantation. No, that's not what I want. Then perhaps you should talk about the young lady who came to your house this evening. You see her? When? The road tonight. There was a young man that we married tonight. You waited too long to do anything. What do you want me to do? If she were to disappear for a moment, what do you hope to gain by her disappearance? Everything. Do you think she will forget her lover in a month? Just give me your money. 1 little month. Not in a month. Not even a year. I have looked into her eyes. She is deep in love. But not with you. Be married within an hour. There must be a way. There is way. Oh. You give me what I want, and may ask anything. No. Stop that! That's a wine. Or perhaps a flower. Hey, the time is very brief. So do you share if I'm to help you? Jesus, dear. Keep it. You may change your mind. Send me word when you use it. I'll find another way. There is no other way.
The stars of tonight's film could not have been in more different places. In 1932, Bela Lugosi was regarded as a rising star. He had just had a great success in Dracula, and he dreamed of making a great career as a leading man in mainstream cinema. Of course, this is not what happened. He actually became typecast in horror, which he did not like, and was pretty much relegated to horror films for the remainder of his career, although he did make numerous attempts to break out of that genre. Unfortunately, he was not able to do so, but in 1932, this was not yet evident, and he certainly still had high hopes of that career as a leading man. Maj Bellamy, on the other hand, was a falling star. She had been one of the great stars of the 1920s on the silent screen, but with the advent of talkies, her career fizzled. This was not because she did not have the voice for talkies, and it certainly wasn't because she was not a beautiful woman. But she wasn't necessarily much of an actress, which kind of shows in this film. And more importantly, she destroyed her own career by making herself very difficult to deal with. And she admitted in her autobiography that she had overplayed her hand through arrogance and lost many opportunities as a result. She did continue acting through the 30s, and ultimately her career came to an end in 1940 with a sex scandal involving a gentleman to whom she was not married. But at this time, she was hoping for a comeback. And so the stars of the film, Lugosi, was looking for a great career in his future, and Maj Bellamy was looking to revive the great career she had in her past. And ultimately, neither was successful, but they're very successful in this film from a campy horror point of view. Now for a brief break.
Happy Halloween, folks, and welcome to the month of October, and I'm hoping you're going to enjoy this wonderful festive season. HalloweenPsychicFair.com, where our online psychic fair is occurring, is where you can get seances, classes, and psychic readings to your heart's delight. We had an opportunity for an all-access pass, which could bring you into dozens of classes by major people, including Byron Ballard, Phil Farber, Reverend Don Lewis, and so many more spectacular people teaching you how to be a psychic, as well as practicing simple magic and a way to learn how to be better at your craft. Plus, we are going to add on these magical seances with Reverend R.J. Greenfield, Reverend Don Lewis doing these major psychics. Plus, we're going to have some great people doing just ordinary readings for you, if there's anything ordinary about a reading. So check it out, HalloweenPsychicFair.com, one of the greatest places to be. It'll be running through the entire month of October, and you'll be able to enjoy it. So check it out, look at it, enjoy, HalloweenPsychicFair.com. Join us today, and happy Halloween.
Hi, I'm Reverend Lori Denman, and I'm the Dean of Students at witchschool.com. Our school offers pagan education anywhere, anytime, anywhere in the world. I'd like to answer a question that I get frequently as Dean of Students, and that is, where do I get started? There are so many courses offered at Witch School, over 130, and growing all the time, that people are kind of overwhelmed by our catalog and don't know where to start. There's two courses that I'd like to recommend as a starting place. One is Carillion 101, First Priesthood. Now, even if you're not going to study to become clergy, it is a great course that covers all the beginning concepts of Wicca from the Carillion point of view. The other course I'd like to recommend is Living a Wiccan Life, which is also a 52-week course, as is the first one. And it covers all aspects of living as a Wiccan. So that's really a great place to start course-wise. One feature we have built into the new site allows you to mark courses as favorites. So as you review the course catalog, pick all your favorites, and then you can go back and tackle them as you have room in your roster. If you have any other questions about Witch School, just contact support@witchschool.com.
The word zombie is a West African word meaning spirit, and this is the sense in which it is used in Africa and other parts of the New World besides Haiti. But in Haiti it has a special meaning. Marie Laveau, the great voodoo queen of New Orleans, famously had a serpent that she kept which was called zombie, in the sense of spirit. But in Haiti, a zombie is something else. It is a dead body raised through magic to be enslaved by the magician who has raised it. And this kind of magician is called a bokor. And it is not considered a good thing. It is not considered part of the voodoo religion per se. It is a kind of sorcery that is frowned upon, but was actually practiced in Haiti. And we'll talk a little bit about how it was practiced as the film goes forward, but it definitely is a historical phenomenon, but only in Haiti. If you look at the voodoo religion elsewhere, it is not part of it. It is native to the island. In this film, we do have some scenes involving magic, and they are real magical techniques that are used, but they're not African, they're European. In the next segment, we will see Bela Lugosi doing a very dramatic scene involving magic, and the technique he's using is absolutely legitimate and also absolutely European. So we have to give the film points for legitimate magic, but we also have to detract points for the fact that they didn't bother to look into any kind of actual voodoo magic, but I'm not entirely sure that is a surprise for 1932. So now we will rejoin our feature, and we will find Maj Bellamy trying on her wedding veil, dressed in nothing else but her underwear, as one does.
More than anything else in this whole world. Heaven or hell lies in the middle of you. You can raise me up to paradise, or you can blast my word into nothing. The time you bring yourself, I can make you the envy of every woman. I'll give my life to make you happy. Oh, this is to be there before it's too late.
Don't. Please.
Don't go into that room. We can be in Port-au-Prince in half an hour. There's a boat sailing at midnight.
You're both so wonderful. Don't spoil everything now.
One last gift before I lose you forever. We are gathered together here in the sight of God and in the face of this company to join together this man, this woman in holy matrimony. Say. to the bride, to beauty's queen. Gladly, my lord. Leave but instead. Fair gypsy, leave my fortune. What is this platform?
I see. Happiness. I see. Love. Far more than you deserve.
Is that all?
No. I see.
What is it?
I see. Yes.
Nothing. No, but what's wrong? Nothing, my dear, please. Oh. Madam! Madam! Can't we do something? Madam! My wife! My wife! Slave of our Lord and Savior, and the love of God, and the fellowship of His angels, be with us evermore. Amen. Zombies? Yes. They are my servants. You think you can do it alone? In their lifetime, they were my assets. I saw a rich doctor, once my master. Secret, I took it out of him. One Gelder does it, wine, swollen bitter. He fought against my spells unto the last. Yes, Sergeant, brother, fight. Excellency Ricard, once Minister of the Interior. Garcia, Brigand Chief. Marquis, Captain of Gendarmerie. This is Sauvin. I, executioner, who almost executed me. I put them, just as you say. This one. But what if they regain their souls? They tear me to pieces. That, my friend, their habit.
When I was a child, I watched a lot of local television, and in those days, local televisions made a lot of their own programming. There were a lot of children's shows, a lot of local news shows, and for my interest above all, the local horror show, all of which were produced there at the station with relatively low budgets and a great deal of creativity. Our local horror host was Sammy Terry out of Indianapolis, who was quite a memorable horror host in my opinion. And I was always very fond of Cemetery and other horror hosts and the way they handled their programs. These programs had very low production values, very low budgets, and so they involved a great deal of creativity. And in my mind, that more than made up for the low production values. I think that creativity is a much more potent force than special effects or wonderful sets and costumes. I think that creativity can lead the viewer into using their own creativity, which is a wonderful thing. Consequently, I have a high tolerance for low production values. The kind of films that the horror hosts would show also often had what, in the modern world, we would consider low production values. They were films frequently from the 1930s and 40s, sometimes even the 50s and 60s, but usually made on relatively low budgets with a great deal of creativity. And when you don't have a lot of special effects, you rely much more on character and story than on special effects. And I think that this produces a better film in many ways. Of course, you have to have a little bit more suspension of disbelief, and you have to involve your own creativity to, in my opinion, truly enjoy it. But it allows you a greater scope for your own creativity because there's so much more you can fill in. So this is part of why I like this kind of film. I hope that you like it too, and we will return after this break. The Tarot of Hecate, my 100-card tarot deck 30 years in the making, finally available to you from witchschoolstore.com. Check out a copy today.
October is here, and you know what that means. We pagans get on our broomsticks and gather together during the Wiccan hour. One of the biggest problems us pagans face is that we have very little space. And how do you keep our altars with us? Don't fret, because at Moonlight Potions and Charms, we have the passion in designing products that will help you to embrace the power of your own magic. With the tap of the wand, the altar on the go contains everything you need to set up your magical altar, even in the smallest of spaces. Or the altar on the go, ultimately Wicked Special Edition, jam-packed with more items for your magical needs. Our new arrivals include altars designed to honor the Voodoo Queen, Madame Marie Laveau, Santa Morte, as well as our beloved ancestors. There is so much more in our Wicked store to help you embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotioncharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you.
Hi, I'm Reverend Lori Denman, one of the Deans of Mentoring at witchschool.com, your pagan education anywhere, anytime resource. I'd like to talk a little bit today about what it takes to be a mentor at Witch School. All of our mentors have completed the coursework that they mentor for, plus they have undergone an extensive training course that teaches them how to be a qualified mentor. So when you become a supporting member at witchschool.com, you know that you've got a fully trained, been there, done that on the coursework mentor. And you can establish a one-on-one relationship with this person as they guide you through your journey. If you want to understand more about mentoring at witchschool.com, contact mentor support at witchschool.com.
When I was young, people were still debating what zombies were or were not. Many people thought they were purely folklore. Some people thought that they were an actual phenomenon, and of those people, some people thought that they were actually magical, and some people thought that they were brought about through the use of drugs or some other physical technique. Today, of course, there's been a lot more research done, and the general consensus is that zombies absolutely were real. In the 60s and 70s, you started seeing photographs and even video of purported zombies who certainly comported to all of the folkloric aspects of what a zombie was supposed to be. And the final consensus was that it was in fact a real phenomenon caused through the use of drugs. And that what the bokor, or sorcerer, would do was that they would administer a drug to the person which would cause them to fall into a catatonic state, which would be mistaken for death. The person would then be buried, and the Bakor would go to the grave later, dig them up, revive them, and inform them that they were now a zombie slave. And it is generally believed that the drugs that were used, or possibly a separate drug also administered, caused brain damage, making the person more susceptible to this idea. But at the same time, when you've grown up with this idea as part of your folklore and you wake up in a coffin in a graveyard, it's kind of easy to accept the idea that, yes, maybe you are a zombie. But generally, it was believed that brain damage helped the person to accept this idea because the impaired brain did not raise objections to it. And in the 1980s, there were a number of people who felt they had discovered the drugs that were used to do this, although it is still highly debated. The book and movie The Serpent and the Rainbow is the story of one such researcher and that person's conclusions, but they're not the only one to have thought that they found the source of zombies, but they are the most famous. But as we go back to our film, you will see that already in 1932, this idea was prevalent, even if unproven, and we will see the explanation of this as people at the time perceived it.
There's two explanations that strike me. Either the body was stolen by members of a death cult that used human bones in their ceremony, or else what? He's not dead. Not dead? Are you mad? I saw her die. The doctor signed a certificate. I saw them bury her. Now, wait a minute. I'm not. But I've lived in these islands for a good many years. And I've seen things with my eyes that make me think I'm safe. There are superstitions in Haiti that the natives brought here from Africa. Some of them can be traced back as far as ancient Egypt. And beyond that yet, in the country that was old when Egypt was young. Yes, but what has that to do with Madeline? I kissed her as she lay there in the coffin. And her lips were cold. Let me explain. Now just a minute, I'll explain. Wherever there is a superstition, you will find there is also a passage. Now, do you remember what your driver told you the night you took you to Bowman's house? Oh, about those horrible creatures you saw. Yeah. He said they were caught and taken from their graves. Now, that's the superstition. Now for the practice. The Ghoul, the steam, the dead corpses from the grave, are supposed to put them there in the twist. Do you mean that Madeline was murdered so that somebody could steal her dead body? Not her body, yes, but not her dead body. Well, surely you don't think she's alive in the hands of natives? Oh, no, better dead than that. Excuse me, please. Have you got a minute? You don't believe that, do you? Hey, there's been lots of people that's been pronounced dead that came alive again in lived for years. Now, if nature can play pranks like that, why isn't it possible to play pranks with nature? Oh, I don't know. Your driver believes he saw a dead man walking. He didn't. What he saw was men alive in everything but this and this. Oh, the whole thing has me confused. I just can't understand it. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I've been trying for years to get to the bottom of it. To separate what you call fact from fiction. The law of Haiti acknowledges the possibility of being defeated alive. Here it is in the English. I'll read it. It's in French. Do you speak French? No. Excuse me, please. Just a better man. Right here. Here's the one. No, thanks. I'll translate it for you. If you say it. Article 749. The use of drugs or other practices which produce lethargic coma or lifeless sleep shall be considered attempted murder. Attempted. Yes, I see. Yeah. All right. Yes. If the person has been buried alive, the act to be considered murder, no matter what the result follows. Oh my. Say, you said that you couldn't understand why he was so interested in that. Do you think he did this? No. No, I think it's native. Native is the second. Of course, if you want to, we can go to Beaumont's house first. If I can get home, can the authorities help? Me, my boy. You don't know these islands. The native authorities are afraid to mess. I'm not. I got friends here. They'll tell me ding dong whether to get out of it. Because I'm a preacher. They think I'm a material. Before we get through with this thing, we may uncover things that even the devil oh, it's stuck. They can't make something right with those eyes. I was a man. If he was smart, I'd have done anything. Given way. I thought that beauty alone. But the soul is gone. I can't bear those empty, staring eyes. Oh, forgive me, Madeline, forgive me. I can't bear it any longer. I will take you back. Back to the grave. No. You must put the light back into her eyes and bring laughter to her lips. She must be gay and happy. You paint a charming picture, Sophia. One that I'd like to see myself. must bring her back. I'm just right. How do you suppose those eyes will regard, and the brain is able to understand? Let us see hatred in them, and that dreadful emptiness. Perhaps you're right. It would be a pity to destroy such a love to love. Let's bring to the future of love. Not the wine? Serpent, bring wine. We have a toast. The future. Yes. Only two points. Yes. Now, if I had it, a glass of wine. What are you trying to do? I have other plans for mademoiselle. I'm afraid you might disagree. I have taken a fancy to you. Yes? Silver! Silver! The future. Yes. You. No! Not that! Not that!
I hope you're enjoying tonight's film. We'll be right back after this break.
Hi, I'm Reverend Lori Denman, Dean of Students at witchschool.com, your pagan education resource anywhere, anytime. I often have people ask me, what's at Witch School if I don't want to become clergy? Well, let me tell you, there are courses on divination, spell crafting, books of shadows, herbalism, crystals, tarot, many other forms of divination, just about any metaphysical topic you could want. We've got you covered at witchschool.com.
Greetings, I'm Lady Nikki Kirby. You may recognize my voice from Witch Hat Chats. It is a privilege to be participating in the Halloween Psychic Fair. The entity known as death is a universal constant that is often misunderstood. It comes in various forms, and we experience it on a daily basis. Discover how to tap into this powerful magic to transform your life in my workshop called Death, My Friend, My Ally. To register, please visit www.halloweenpsychicfair.com, and I look forward to meeting you. Have an amazing day.
Castles? Castles in Haiti? And not just any castle, but giant French Gothic castle? In Haiti? What were these people thinking? Well, actually they were thinking that these sets were cheap. And this was an independent production, a Halperin film, not like a big Universal film, and they were conscious of money, and so they were able to rent sets that had been used in The Hunchback of Notre Dame, in Frankenstein, and even in Dracula, as well as several other recent films at the time, which were already standing and therefore required only the rental fee and no actual building to take place. So it was certainly in their interest to use this already established set as part of their film. The fact that it's completely ridiculous for Haiti is beside the point. It may also be that the idea of spooky old castles was so closely associated with the horror genre at the time that they may have felt that they just had to include one. But personally, I think it was because they were cheap.
Young man, he's dead.
He is right on over there. We got a hard day before us, Paula. Old friend, I
Turn back before it is too late. And be old before all the days is yet.
Get somebody to go with
Because all is afraid of the mountain. Because it is called the land of the living dead. I am the only man that ever came from there alive. There is a reason to this man that is called murder. Come, all about what it is.
What? Just as Pierre said, now the monster always hovers over the house at the beginning of the day. Madeline, is she there? Oh, I must go and see.
No. You, my boy. You, lie down, sir. She's strong in the morning.
You, let me go up and see what I can do.
How did you go up? Perhaps you remember something. They never remember anything when they are like that. No? Because you cut off.
Madeline!
I can't. Oh, Mom, it's your turn. Take it away. My goodness. What? I got them. I'm going to run away. He can find you. This is your home.
Can you still hear me? It is unfortunate you are no longer able to speak. I should be interested to hear you describe your symptoms. You see, you are the first man to know what is happened. None of the others did. You refused to take hands once. I remember. Oh, well. We understand each other better now. Madeline, found you. You're alive. Alive. Listen, I you. Oh, my darling. What have they done to you? Who are you? What are they? You, my friend, they are the angels of death. Come! Daddy, something wrong with you. It's real. There. There's no one behind that. Come on, don't let me get away. Oh, darling.
I dream.
Excuse me, please. Have you got a match?
So, that is White Zombie. Next week we'll be back with another classic horror film, in this case The Ghoul from 1933, with Bela Lugosi's chief rival Boris Karloff, and also Cedric Hardwicke. I think that you will enjoy The Ghoul, and it has an entirely different metaphysical interest about it, whereas the White Zombie deals, arguably, with voodoo and with zombies. The Ghoul deals with ancient Egypt. So I hope you'll join me next week, and we will have another lovely, old, public domain horror film. Until next time, may you blessed be.